Today we are going to see if it is good that Patchwork has only just been released. It is released in the newest TCG set, Soul Fusion. It was released in the Dimension Box for the OCG in November of 2016. If we take a look at the meta for the TCG at the end of 2016, it was widely dominated by multiple decks such as Dark Lords, Paleozoic, ABC, Metal Foes, and an alternate Pendulum deck. Against those decks, if we had Patchwork, it would have had a good chance at the time. With the advantage of Master Rule 3, you was able to make multiple fusion monsters and push with some easy OTKs. Along with the Brilliant Fusion engine, you could have combined that with the deck to net a wide range of pluses in card advantage. At the time, I feel like if we had Patchwork back then, it would have had too much gain and OTK potential that it would have been easily matched the top competing decks at the time. With this in mind, if Patchwork was released near the end of 2016, I believe that Patchwork would have been hit on the ban list. Maybe not banned, but put to 1 and 2. And not only that, but maybe other cards would have been hit, such as Fluffle Dog, Owl, maybe even Toy Vendor. We could have also seen indirect hits, such as Brilliant Fusion or Gem Knight's Wrath Knight in a similar way that Konami hit Norden instead of the Zodiac card later in time. If we look at the first part of 2017, we see sets such as Raging Tempest, Fusion Enforcers, Maximum Crisis, and other sets being released. Firstly, Raging Tempest was released in February. This included the big boy, Zodiac. This deck had so many 1 and 2 card combos, it was unreal. This meant the deck was very viable and was able to play a lot of backward because all they had to do was draw one monster and they could play their entire deck. We also saw the Wind Witch engine being released, being able to make a 1 card Crystal Wing. This made it extremely difficult for Fluffles to be able to compete. This would be able to make a card which was able to negate monster effects once per turn, while also being immune basically by battle. Although this wouldn't have been impossible for Fluffles to beat, it would have been a big problem, especially when they have 4 or 5 other cards to play their turn with, making it harder for Fluffles to push through even with Patchwork. Zodiac was known for ending on some kind of a floodgate or negates, as well as a Dryden that can pop cards on each player's turn. To be honest, I think Zodiac would have beaten Fluffles even with Patchwork. This means I think at this point, we could have had Patchwork and it would have been a decent card, and push the deck maybe a couple of tops in events, but nothing too major. Next up, Fusion Enforcers introduced the Invoke deck. This was able to be combined with pretty much any deck, but when combined with things such as the Wind Witch engine, you had an easy Crystal Wing from a 1 card and a 1 card fusion. This makes it possible to make a good board with multiple negates and back row. Against Fluffles, even with Patchwork, would have probably struggled against all these negates. Depending on your hand, you may be able to play through all of them, but the odds are against you. For Maximum Crisis, we got cards such as Ash Blossom and Masterpiece. To quickly talk about Ash, we will just say it can negate the Patchwork, but with the rest of your deck having a lot of draw and search power, you could bait out the Ash first and then Patchwork, or bait with the Patchwork first and then search with Dog or Owl depending what you need. Masterpiece was then released. This brought an entire deck that was extremely strong. You was able to main floodgates and monsters that were immune to cards and effects. Against this, Fluffles would have struggled with all the floodgates and being immune to cards. With the True Draco back row, you could tribute on your opponent's turn and disrupt their turn with card destructions. I feel against Draco, Fluffles would have struggled, even with Patchwork. Again, you could have played through it depending on both players' hands and if you had side deck for Game 2 and Game 3. Then there was Pendulum Evolution, which brought some Pendulum support. This led to the deck being able to swarm the field even better than before and being able to make more negates on the board by being able to go into the extra deck cards. This also gave them Astrograph Sorcerer, which meant you could extend your combos and even use it on your opponent's turn. This set would make it a bit hard to play through with Fluffles, but not impossible. All the disruption they will be able to put on board will make it hard, but Fluffles, with their draw power and their search ability, will be able to keep going, push through all the negates, and potentially get either a board clear or some damage on field. Next, we have the set Battles of Legend Light's Revenge, which was mainly reprints of good cards, but saw Minerva being released. This gave Light Swarms and other graveyard-based decks some good draw power, disruption, and utility gain. Against Fluffles with Patchwork, it would be an easy win for Fluffles. Sure, the graveyard-based decks would have had the graveyard as resources, but with fusions such as Frightfur Sabretooth being unable to be destroyed by card effects, you could have been able to push through the deck fairly easy. After this, we have Code of the Duelist, and the new Master Rule, which introduced Link Monsters and extra Monster Zones. With this, the deck was set, as you would have to play some Link Monsters to summon as much as you need. This wouldn't be impossible for the deck, but for what there were link monster wise, it would have been hard and honestly a pain for the deck to deal with. This would lead the deck to have to play with one fusion on field at a time, and having to go into Sabretooth to revive other ones. While not being hard to do for the deck, it would have used up a lot of resources and not gained a lot to use afterwards. From this point, we shall just skip straight to Circuit Break. This set had a couple of links the deck would be able to use to gain monster zones. With the release of the new Spiral card, Double Helix, the deck wouldn't be able to compete at this point. You may have been able to play a little and push through the little bit of a board, but through the Spiral advantage and their own link monster, and they would be able to recycle cards and be able to not be targeted, it would have been too hard. With Extreme Force we had Mech Knights, which pushed the Invoke deck into a better direction and led to a stronger deck. This would have been a bit of a pain for Fluffles. They would have bigger monsters with slightly less one-card combos. You were to go head-to-head with them, and it would just be a case of who drew better each game and who had the best pilot. Flames of Destruction was released in May of 2018. This set helped Fluffles and other decks by introducing the Nightmare Link cards. They were generic link monsters which could deal with other cards, and if co-linked allow you to draw cards. This meant they had a few extra links to use and extend plays with. Around this time we started to see the GoKey extra link deck start to pop up and start topping and win events. With the built-in protection and draws from the link monsters and Dissolve being able to search. With the built-in protection and draws from the new link cards and Dissolve being able to summon search, the deck had a lot of advantage. Combining this with the GoKey cards, which were able to search for more GoKey cards when they were sent to the graveyard, and a searchable Monster Reborn that would summon 2 at a time, the deck barely bricked, and was 99% of the time was able to extra link, which hinders a lot of decks at the time and still does. With this in mind, at this time Fluffles would have been completely useless and wouldn't stand a chance. Even going first, you wouldn't have been able to set up a lot of negates and you would have easily lost. We then had Dark Saviors being released near the end of May 2018. This brought us Sky Strikers. It was and currently is one of the best decks at the moment. At the time, it and GoKey would have been head-to-head for top cut at events. GoKey still outmatched Fluffles, but with Sky Striker I'm not too sure. I think it depends on who opened what cards and what decks they're playing. Both decks, Sky Striker and Fluffles with Patchwork, would have been able to keep advantage and would mean both decks were able to have an evenly matched game. GoKey would have the best odds as they did, but depending how GoKey does, against Sky Striker, they could have been pushed out the top cut. This means if any Fluffles made it to the top cut, they had a better chance against Sky Strikers, as long as they didn't lose to GoKey deck. This would mean that the winner of the events would come down to what parents gave you. After this, nothing too big had been released. Yes, Dangers came out in Cybernetic Horizon, but had no real meta impact. For now. Shadows in Valhalla didn't bring anything too relevant, so it wouldn't change how the Fluffle deck would have done. Soul Fusion has just been released. As the new set, we can't really tell what the impact will make, other than that Thunder Dragons is going to be a really strong deck. So for now, we'll leave the discussion for here. One last thing to point out, if it had never been on the ban list, I feel like the deck would have been like Burning Abyss. We aren't sure on the format. I feel like depending when Patchwork was released, the deck may or may not have suffered a couple of hits here and there, but nothing too major. With Patchwork only just being released, I think it is unlikely to be hit for quite a while. I am no Fluffle expert, so I may have gotten a couple of interactions wrong in this part. I honestly think that what I have said would have happened, or close to. I think Konami have done a good job leaving Patchwork until now to release it. It is able to be played with the links we have now, and what else is out. And we can now expect to see Fluffles top at least a couple of events in the next coming months. But make sure to let me know what you think. Is it good that Patchwork was only just released? And do you think it should have been released ages ago? Thanks for watching, and make sure to like, comment and subscribe.